This is Magnum XL200 at Cedar Point. It was the world's first hypercoaster, and on paper, it's a perfect ride, except it's not. You see, this ride was built by Aerodynamics back in 1989, and it's a part of a breed of coasters still standing today that were built without computers. And this creates its one flaw, but we'll get more into that a little later. So let's dive deep into Magnum XL200. I'm gonna start by briefly talking about the history, and then I'll go over the full ride layout. So, Magnum was a prototype aero hypercoaster, a hyper being any roller coaster that exceeds 200 feet in height. And actually, Aero didn't want Magnum to be 200 feet tall, but Cedar Point always has to be the best, I guess. So Aero added a little to Magnum's original height, and voila, the world's first hyper was born. And with it being the first hyper, it was also of course the tallest coaster in the world at opening. Now this record would last for 5 years before being taken, but even though it's not the tallest coaster out there anymore, it'll always be the first hyper. So does that record-breaking height translate to a good roller coaster? Kind of. So let's go over the full ride experience from the station to the brakes. Magnum starts with a right turn into one of the slowest lift hills out there, before taking down the 200-foot drop, which provides some great airtime. This is followed by a huge turning hill, which doesn't provide much airtime due to the speed you take it at, but the drop off the turn is still fun because of the speed you pick up. You valley out going into a tunnel before rising up into the first classic airtime hill on the ride. This is your first real sensation of ejector, and you'll come to realize a little later that's what this ride's all about. It's not insane compared to some of the other hills that are yet to come, but it's still a really fun element. You then go into this funky turnaround that doesn't really do anything, it just kind of meanders you and turns you to the other direction. But I guess it's cool that they tried something different. Alright, it's at this point of the ride where Magnum really shows its force. You get thrown into two aggressive airtime hills, which are actually probably my favorite parts of the ride, because the airtime is elite while not being too much. You know what is too much, however? The final 4 hills of this ride. These hills are really hurt by the fact the coaster was designed before computers, as the peaks are basically sharp edges that throw you into the not very comfortable lap bar. If you want a slightly better experience at this part, don't sit in the back of the car, but no matter the seat, the ending of Magnum is just brutal, and in my opinion, the only section of any coaster that's just too much airtime. That being said, if you don't mind the pain, this might just be the perfect finale to a coaster, and honestly, as a whole, Magnum XL200 is a pretty perfect layout. You have good views, tall drops, great speed, unique elements, insane airtime, and not to mention, it was the first hypercoaster. For what it is, even if it was painful, it's way ahead of its time, and besides the finale, it's a really fun experience. So, for a final score, I'm gonna give Magnum a 7 out of 10. The only reason the score isn't higher is because of those last hills. But anyways, that just about does it for today's video. If you're still here, consider subscribing as it really helps a small channel like me grow, and I'll see you in the next one. Have a great day.